I'm also a big believer of if you don't try and if you don't learn from your mistakes, how can you grow, right? You fail, you fail. You get up again, you try again, you just don't make the same mistake.
Welcome to Identity Unveiled. IU is a platform that supports advancement of Asian American women to the executive ranks. We highlight amazing stories of Asian American women becoming the first in their industry or breaking barriers as executives and leaders.
So, how long did it take for you to put your makeup on this morning? I know for me, it is a struggle as I'm getting kids ready for school. Sometimes it just doesn't happen because I don't have the time. Permanent makeup, like microblading for eyebrows, lip blushing, permanent eyeliner, are cosmetic procedures that involve implanting pigments into the skin to mimic the look of traditional makeup. And permanent makeup is on the rise. Now, people choose permanent makeup for a variety of reasons. For some, it's about saving time in their day, but for some, it can also be medically driven, with permanent makeup offering solutions for people who suffer from alopecia or undergoing chemotherapy, because it helps people to restore that sense of normalcy and confidence in their appearance. Asian American women make up over 60% of the permanent makeup artists in the United States.
Today, we're thrilled to sit down with Esther Yim, founder and owner of Hudson Beauty Bar, a leading makeup studio and training academy, offering services like eyebrow and lip blush, tattoo, scalp micropigmentation, and more. Esther has become a trailblazer in the beauty industry. From her Queens upbringing to building a trusted brand, serving influencers and VIPs, her journey reflects creativity, resilience, and amazing connections. As a business owner and educator and mom, she's carved out a unique space in the beauty. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you.
So, Esther, let's just start with your upbringing. What was it like for you? And tell us a little bit about your upbringing in Flushing, Queens, New York.
We had a very small community, I want to say Koreans, and it was like where everybody knew everybody. It was very fun because our friend group, it was basically like everybody knew everybody. So even though you went to a different school in a different borough, we took the bus to actually go meet our friends. But because there were so many Korean Americans, or I should say Asian Americans in Queens and Flushing, it was hard for us to branch out of that circle. So we kind of stayed to ourselves. We always believed that we can always help each other in the community. But it was really fun. Like everything, especially Flushing, is so, I feel like it's, how do I say it, very cultural. So anything that if we wanted to have like Korean food or Chinese food or Indian food or like Japanese food, everything that we wanted to was so conveniently located in Queens, so that like we didn't feel like, I guess our parents didn't feel like we needed to go anywhere else but to stay in Queens.
So we'll fast forward to how you built Hudson Beauty Bar. Love hearing about your background. I'm in Flushing too. When did you open Hudson Beauty Bar?
We opened Hudson Beauty Bar in 2018 in Edgewater. When we moved from Queens to Edgewater, that itself was a big process because I was so comfortable in Queens. All my friends were there, everything that I loved, and the restaurants, everything that I knew was in Queens. So I was like, why do I want to cross two bridges? I'm also a big believer in signs and energy and like everything happens for a reason. I just couldn't do it in Queens anymore. So that day when I was feeling a little frustrated, I looked at listings for the commercial rent in Edgewater. And I have been looking periodically, but that day when I was feeling like so defeated, the first listing was a commercial space in my building. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, there's a place that I can rent out in my building. I was like, oh my gosh. So I went to go look at it immediately. I looked at it, and at the end of March is when we signed for Hudson Beauty Bar. And we're in Edgewater, so we're by the Hudson River. I came up all these names. I was like, should I make it Esther Beauty? But I wasn't big enough then. So I was like, okay, stay humble. So I was like, so do I do this? Do I do that? I was like, beauty. I definitely wanted to put the word beauty in it because my background before permanent makeup was an esthetician. So I love talking about skincare and educating my clients on skincare. So I was like, okay, definitely beauty. Let's call it a bar because I could offer so many more other services. But then what goes in the front is like Esther Beauty Bar or this beauty bar. And I was like, oh, Hudson Beauty Bar. And then it just kind of like stuck to me and it was like a nice ring. And I did a poll with my friends. I was like, hey guys, like Beauty by the Hudson or like, what do you guys think? And everybody voted and the public voted for Hudson Beauty Bar as well. So we kind of went with it. And here we are today, 6 years later.
What kind of led you, though, towards opening up your own business? I mean, you said you were an aesthetician for a while before you becoming your own entrepreneur.
Personally, I really never thought I was gonna be an entrepreneur because Queens is so catered towards the Korean community. Like even in our Korean community world, it's literally like you're working an odd job, like getting paid cash, right? As a receptionist or an administrative assistant from 9 to 5. I never thought I was gonna leave that world. But once I got married to my husband, he really introduced me to the corporate side of like real American living, if that makes sense. So I started working for Equinox and I went as a lead esthetician. I quickly became a spa manager for two locations of Equinox and I learned a lot from there. But as I was managing our team who really believed in health and wellness, I realized that the corporate world was a little bit more number driven. And that was something that wasn't in our, like, we were really there to educate our clients with wellness and health and why massages and facials are so beneficial in their lives. And I think once it became like numbers, like goals, that kind of made me detach from the corporate because that's not what I truly believed in. I wanted to be genuinely invested in my clients' wellness and health versus a dollar sign on top of their heads. And even when I have clients who come in on a monthly basis or biweekly basis, I would get to know them personally and not try to upsell like what corporate wants. So I think that's when I decided to leave the corporate world and said, well, let me try something else, something different. And when I was in corporate is when I started looking into permanent makeup. That's when microblading really came into the picture. And so I started kind of gearing, I guess, changing gears from skincare to microblading. And I think that's when another chapter kind of appeared. And that's when I started doing a little bit more tattooing. It was like in nail shops because I had to start somewhere. So it was more like a shop in shop. And that's when I was predominantly working in Queens, although I was in Edgewater. And then it led up to me opening up my own shop in Edgewater, ultimately.
And you are also an incredible esthetician, but your skin shows obviously right now.
Oh,
You're also a teacher. Can you tell me more about the academy?
I think in general, I just love to educate. I think it came from skincare because there was a time when I went through a very severe cystic acne stage of my life, and I had no idea what was happening to me. So I literally jumped from this skincare line to this skincare line, and it was like so purging, purging, more purging. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. So in my young age, when you're in your young 20s, your appearance is everything. And I was so self-conscious. So like I had to like learn and learn. And when I ask my clients now, like, and when they ask me like, what do you use for your skincare? The first thing I ask them is, do you guys use a toner? And they absolutely don't know what that is. They're like, what is a toner? Like, what is this? What is the skin step, the process that you guys are going through? So I think that's where it started from educating. I started educating my clients on skincare. And then I love Disney. So I do like Disney travel agent on the side too. And that's another thing because when people think Disney, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go to Disney World and I'm going to enjoy myself. But little do they know, you have to reserve dining. You have to have your fast passes ready. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in line, waiting in line for 90 minutes for It's a Small World when it's like a 2 minute ride. That's something that I didn't know myself. So after I did all this researching, I was like, well, I'm going to help my clients. If anybody wants to go to Disney, I'm going to educate them on what they need to do and maximize their time because, hey, why not? Like, if I can help you, it's a win-win for both of us, right? So when it came to permanent makeup, I was really, really confident in microblading. So people started asking me, do you teach microblading? And I said, what, not right now. I don't think I'm in the right stage of to do microblading, but one person became two people became five people became 10. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a sign for me to really just kind of step outside my comfort zone and let me try. So I held my first class here in Edgewater, lots of trial and error. But I'm also a big believer of if you don't try and if you don't learn from your mistakes, how can you grow, right? So I took more classes and more classes myself to see how other educators educate and you kind of implement, oh, this would be a good thing. And I always put myself in the student's perspective because I'm a student myself. If I was a student and I went to go learn makeup, what would I really want to walk up with? Like, what would be beneficial for me? So I always try to put myself in my students' perspective and think if they came to my class, what would they want to learn? So that's why my manual, I actually print out my manual here because it's always changing. And if I mass print, I feel like I can't edit my manuals. And with the beauty industry, something's always changing. And as trends change, I have to also learn that trend and learn that beauty trend so I can teach my students. So I feel like it's something that I feel like it's just in me. Maybe also as a mom, because I'm a mom, I like to teach my kids. Maybe it's just something that I'm just generally interested in myself. Yeah.
Incredible. So you have a microblading and beauty business, generally speaking. Then you have the academy, which you're seeing anywhere from students come in or trainees to come in per month. But I have been personally to Esther, and she is quite a very, very talented, very skilled. So you're in exceptional hands. How did you even start from there to the next step is funding the business? Did you get investors, or how did that happen to get everything going?
No, I know a lot of people only see what they see on Instagram and on social media, right? It was a lot of tears, a lot of doubts, and I usually never doubt anything because for me, if you fail, you fail. You get up again, you try again, you just don't make the same mistake. I told my husband when we first opened Hudson Beauty Bar, I was like, I might just be able to make the rent, maybe not even, but hey, like we have to try. I didn't get funding. I didn't take out a loan. I didn't do anything. It was also a time of when Instagram was kind of booming. So I really, I till this day, I reach out to influencers. I offer them a free service or I'm like, hey, can you shout us out or something like that? And it's a lot of people think that I stop working in the back end because they feel like I'm at a certain level. I don't ever think I'm at a certain level. I think there's always room for growth. I always tell my students we're on the same path. I just started a little earlier, so I might be like 10 steps ahead of you. But if you work 10 steps as harder as me, then you'll probably catch up to where I am right now. That's always on your personal belief and your ambition. So I although I was an elevator up and down, I was here in my space. I took videos, I reached out to people. I had mailers. I still have the mailers that I sent out. I did the whole old traditional way of knocking on doors. Hey, we just opened up Hudson Beauty Bar. We do permanent makeup. If you want to come by, we'll give you a discount. We did the newspaper. That's when newspapers were still around still. We did newspapers. We did a lot of Facebook. If you go on Facebook, there's groups. There's like NYC moms or like moms. So I targeted the mom group. I joined every mom group. And till this day, I still join any mom group that I see. And I go to the search engine and if I search microblading. And even though the microblading, someone asked for, hey, who is the best microblading in Bergen County? Even though this was from like 2018, 2017, till this day, I still post, hi, my name is Esther. I have a studio in Edgewater, and these are the services we offer because there's still people who commented. And even though they commented years ago, although I comment, then everybody's going to get my notification. So till this day, I'm always working on my computer. Everybody thinks I go home. I spend time with my kids. I do. I have a window I spend with my kids, and then when they go to sleep, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on any platform that you can find to boost my business. So I feel like you constantly have to work. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a really important point that everybody sees what's on social media and nobody really sees what's going on the back end. You're in a different place right now in your career, but when you first started out, what kept you kind of motivated and going?
I want to say truth be told, I'm a very lazy person. If you go to my house, I what I wished for Santa, I posted on my Instagram. I was like, Santa, for this year, I just want a clean house. That's what I said. Please clean my house, declutter my house, because my house, I'm lazy, right? But like physically, I'm lazy. But what gets me going is I think it's my past. Like I come from very humble beginnings. Like I didn't come from money. I had hand-me-downs from my cousin who was a little bit more well off. So she would be dressed in Banana Republic, J. Crew. I would get all the hand-me-downs at like 14. So people thought I was a preppy like girl who comes from money, but there was a time when we didn't have electricity. There was a time when my mom needed to borrow rice because we didn't have anything to eat. There was a time where we literally lived in candles. There was a time when we had blankets over blankets because there was just no heat. And I want to show my kids that with hard work, you get rewarded. And I need to set that example for my kids. Although I went through hardships, I don't want my kids to go through that. I don't spoil my kids. I specifically say, listen, like you guys have two hands, two legs. The food that you ate, you clean it up. I lost a lot of friends as I was starting my career. And for me, it's like life is not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. So I want to live every day to the fullest and to the best that I can. And at the end of the day, if I'm here in this world, I want to leave a legacy, not only for myself, but for my kids. And I want my kids to look at me, not only me, but my husband too, and say, my parents work hard to give me the life that I have right now. And I want them to be very grateful for it. But for them to see that, I want them to work twice as hard. I want them to be humble. I want them to, although we live comfortably, I want them to know that this never stops. It's a consistent cycle. And I just want to really instill that into their minds of also to my students too. Like you said, what you see on social media is not everything. And I tell my students, I'm like, this is, if you tell me you want to enroll into my class because you're trying to make money and you see the lifestyle that I live, you've only seen 1%. Like you haven't seen anything yet. So if I'm till this day doing what I'm doing right now, you have to do literally 5 times more. So keep that fire burning is like kind of like the message that I try to send out.
It's the hustle on the East
Yeah,
Coast.
yeah.
What is the hustle? Like what's happening? Like the 1% that we see on social media is one thing. What's the other 99%? What's going on in the background?
So growing up, I grew up again, my background wasn't the greatest. Like I am a college dropout. When you're stuck in that world of Asian people, like you kind of, it's like a chamber, right? It's like you bounce off each other. Like, oh yeah, maybe we're not good enough, or maybe we're not good enough. We're the minority, so maybe we're not good enough. So working in corporate is a very, if you're coming from this world of Korean people, the Korean community, of not knowing your future, I guess, if once you step into the corporate world, you're like, wow, they made it, right? So all of my cousins, especially my brother graduated from Dartmouth and then he went to UPenn. So the hopes were, let's say his standards like all the way up there. And then here I am, a Flushing hangout, right? Who rarely goes to school, who cuts school, like crappy scores on their SATs. There was no future for me. So my aunt would be like, Esther, just get married to a doctor or something and just there's no future for you, basically. So just get married. It's like the typical Korean drama thing, like, oh, just marry a rich person. You're cute, whatever. And I was like, this is what she's gonna think of me. So she's actually kind of the 1% that's in my back burner. I have a lot of people who doubted me that's in my back burner of like, oh yeah, you don't have anything going on for your life. So every time I get tired, obviously the majority is my kids, right? Because I want to build this world for my kids. But I remember those people who like looked at me and said, you're not gonna do anything with your life. You're just a Flushing hangout. Like, what do you about this life? I'm like, all right, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what I can do. So even things now, like when I make, it's a really weird thing, but I tell my like, I'm like, don't poke the sleeping bear. Like I'm doing fine. But if someone kind of pushes me to be like, Esther can't do that. I am going to show you what I'm capable of. I might be a small, petite little Korean girl, but I'm going to show you if you put your mind to it, you can get it accomplished. And so far, anything that I put my mind to it, I have accomplished. I'm telling you, if I can do it, you can do it. Whether it's, I'm hoping for the best, but like if I tell them, I'm like, seriously, if I can do it, if I'm a college dropout and I can do it, and if I had nothing going on in my life, as you say, and if I can do this starting from the scratch, like absolutely nothing, no financial help, no assistance. If I can do it, you can do it. So that's my whole thing.
What a
Yeah.
story. I know there's a lot of tears, like you said, and a lot of maybe the impossible, but you overcame it all. And I think it's an incredible story. The hardest part of a business, one of the hardest part is actually growing the clientele. And you famously have done this. I love your Facebook and Instagram account. Like I'm on Facebook groups and I get it. Like for some
Yeah.
reason, people feel like it's a community. Like you could put stuff out there but it's brilliant. How did you get these influencers, VIP clients, namely Jessi O is one of them? Tell us a story of how that happened.
I'm very lucky. So beauty is something that's always going to be, it's not leaving, right? So I feel like the more people understand that permanent makeup is so convenient in your lifestyle, they're more intrigued trying it. And I just really from the beginning of my career, I just started reaching out. Like I just put just a wall and I'm like, hi, hi, hi. Like, hi, nice to meet you. Hi, nice to meet you. So if I reach out to like 10 influencers, maybe one would kind of bite. And so one became two, two became three. And then also, as you do more and more services, your technique grows and people are more curious to see like, oh, what is this? What is that? Just Jessica happens to be one of my good friends, my childhood friends. But although she's my childhood friend, she is a huge influential person. So when she asked me when I went to Korea to do a class in Korea, she said, "Hey, did you bring your tattoo like machine?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you want to do my eyebrows?" And I was like, "Hold on." I was like, "Wait, me?" And she was like, "Yeah." She's like, I would really like for you to do my eyebrows. I was so honored, although she's my friend. It's just like a different level of respect. So I was just like, oh my God, like more on a personal level, on my professional level, I was like, oh my God, like I was like, absolutely, I would love to do it. And then there was a time right after she did it, she was doing a variety show in Korea and she was wearing a hat. And this guy is a host. He's one of the biggest hosts in Korea. Everybody knows him. His name is Yoo Jae-suk. And he was like, why are you wearing a hat? And she's like, well, I just did my eyebrows. And then he like opened her hat and he was like, let me see, let me see. And she's like, he was like, wow, it looks so good. And I was like, okay, my life is over. I was like, I can die happy. I was
Incredible.
like,
That's a golden moment for you.
yeah, I was like, that's it. I was like, that's it. I was like, he was like, Jessica, I love her to death. I'm so thankful for her. And I love that she complimented my work too. But I was like, the God of Korea just complimented my work. So I was like, that's it. That's all I needed in my life. So I was like, oh, so now I'm like so happy. But then I still, of course, people do see that I worked with Jessi and there was a client. This was when I was in Korea. He's like, can I please book with Esther? I saw that she did Jessi's brows, so she has to do my brows. And it's so fun. It's such a blessing. It really is a blessing.
Now today you are also the Korean ambassador at the American Academy of Micropigmentation. What are you hoping to strive there with the permanent makeup industry as their ambassador?
It's tricky in Korea. Permanent makeup is illegal. The only medical doctors or people with medical licenses are allowed to do permanent makeup in Korea. I think one of the biggest factors of that is that because it is illegal in Korea, that they don't focus on the sanitation part behind it. They really focus on the technique. Currently, K beauty is trending worldwide, whether it's skincare or the techniques, even in the permanent makeup industry. And I want to really bridge, I guess, that gap from Korea to America because I feel like the techniques in America can be a little bit bolder and a little bit more on the defined side. And when the tattoo is bolder, especially when it comes to cosmetics, it doesn't age well. So I want to kind of have those two worlds kind of collide and partner up together. With that being said, I feel like if we really focus on the hygiene and showcase the risks behind the tattooing and understand let the Korean tattoo artists understand that hey, we are working with bloodborne pathogens. So you do have to really keep hygiene as number one versus technique number one. I feel like the Korean government would be more open to letting tattooing be legalized in Korea because truth be told, doctors are busy being doctors. They don't have time to take a permanent makeup class to give you the best eyebrow or the best modern technique that there is. And I feel like it's unfair because in any other countries, we are identified as artists, permanent makeup artists. But in Korea and in Japan, you go to jail. It's illegal. So I feel like the more they kind of show that, okay, now we are taking proper steps to ensure that our clients are safe and that we're safe and we're doing like we're using proper personal protective equipment or we're doing this very sterilized, like doctors, then I feel like it would be very, very beneficial for the Korean tattoo artists. And I feel like the AAM can really help push that because we are one of the biggest boards and that is a board for micropigmentation.
You also have, in the midst of being the ambassador, running Hudson Beauty Bar, having your own academy, you have a family. So for you as an entrepreneur, what is striking the right balance for you with your personal demands and then the demands of running a successful business?
It's tough. It's really, really tough. I do try to take as much vacations, maybe too much, to ensure that I don't have a burnout. So when I work really hard. There's like I'm mostly here, but then when I go on vacations with my family, I completely disconnect. I don't work. I try not to touch work. But that goes back to in order for you to run a business, it's not all flowers and butterflies and rainbows, right? It comes with a lot of sacrifices. It comes with a lot of tears. It comes a lot of mostly mom guilt because our kids stay young for so little. And once my son just turned 13, like 2 days ago, and I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, like in 5 years, he's going to be off to college. And I basically have 5 years left when he's physically home. And 5 years seems like a long time, but it's very short. Like 5 years ago, I thought it happened like last year, but it happened 5 years ago. So I try to really take as much vacation time as I can. That's, I guess, another benefit of owning your own business is sometimes when you have little, especially my daughter, when she has like little recitals or whatever, I can just block myself off that time, cater to my kids, come back, and then work afterwards. I kind of like have a flexible schedule. But anytime I get a birthday card for or like a Mother's Day card, my kids always write, "Thank you for working so hard for our family." So and we're very, very transparent with our feelings, my husband and I. So when we're tired, literally say, "Hey, I'm so sorry, mommy's tired today, but I'll put you to bed." Or mommy is a little frustrated today. Or and then my kids will ask me like, what happened at work today? Why are you frustrated? I'm like, oh, this happened at work and but this is how we're gonna fix it. But when you're working, it's not all happiness. It comes with downfalls. And so I'm very transparent with what I do. My daughter started drawing eyebrows the other day. So she's like, Mommy, like when I take over your business, I'm like, first of all, there's steps to doing that. I'm like, I just give you my business. But I was like, I can help you. So she sees what we're going to they're very hands-on with my business too, my kids.
What's your daughter, by the way?
She's 10.
But she's the
Yeah.
boss. Like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, she is. She really is. My daughter has all of us right
I
here.
think it's great how you look to integrate, your business, like all facets of your life together. I think that's really powerful and it's a healthy way of managing, your passions outside of your home.
You know what I think it is? I think, when we were growing up, our parents, I don't know about your parents, but my parents were very like there was no communication, right? And we weren't allowed to be sad. We weren't allowed to be depressed. If right now it's very everybody knows about anxiety, depression, like panic attacks, like all these things. But back then it was still a mental disorder. So like anytime you have like something that is not happy, they were ashamed of that. So I feel like because our parents tried to cover their feelings and kind of like put it in a ball, like we weren't able to see what they went through because I'm pretty sure, I mean, at least we speak English, but when our parents immigrated from Korea, like there was a huge language barrier. What did they know about credit scores? What did they know about the loans? They don't know anything. So I know my mom for sure, like when she tried to open up a nail business, which she did, but they went through a lot of mishaps. There's a lot of people who took her money and ran because she thought it was a cash only situation contract. And they went through all these things and they probably went through a lot more than what we can imagine. But we weren't able to see what they went through mentally because they would always just kind of put it in a ball and like keep that to themselves. So I feel like in order for our kids to open up to us, and that's why I kind of have a distance between my parents because like they were so to themselves that like I can't make that connection with my parents. But I feel like the more open you are with your children, like my kids, and we're like all together, it's not just my business, it's the family's business. And I have them more hands-on. Like the other day too, I was like, hey, my son's name is James. I was like, come here and clean and see what we do here. He's like, oh, what is this bed, mom? Like, what is this sheet for? Why does it look like a operating? Like, am I gonna go into surgery? Like, he's like, what is this stuff? And I was like, no, this is the bed sheet. I was like, this is what we wear. This is the gowns that we wear. The more involved we get our kids involved, I feel like the more open communication we can have with our kids. And I feel like the more they will understand us more instead of pushing us away. Ultimately, I want my kids to be very comfortable. Like, if anything had happened to them, I want them to be like, I don't want them to be like, oh my God, I have to call my mom. I'm so scared. I have to lie to them. No, I want them to be like, oh my God, something happened. I have to call my parents. Like, they're going to help me take care of it. Like, I want to build that trust. I feel like maybe the generation with our parents, maybe because of the language barrier too, maybe because we have that gap, it's not as close as what we can do to our kids now.
Just recently, my sister was telling me this, and she was like, I was telling dad how we grew up hearing bouncing checks. And they used to kind of whisper it in the kitchen so that we wouldn't hear, but we knew something was going on because there was like an intense energy, like you could feel something. But my dad was actually surprised that my sister and I had heard that. Like he thought they had protected us from the trials of growing up and some of the financial issues. But I think he never knew that we actually did know that something was going on that wasn't right.
I would say, Esther, the way that you and I grew up as Korean, our parents were Korean immigrants, I feel like it's really impacted. Like I can see it when you talk about you're just very heartfelt. Like you have a very kind heart and you're very passionate. Like you have that Korean entrepreneurship in you. Like, but I feel like you fight, you see what your parents went through and you understand the suffering they went through and you don't want that for your kids. So I feel like a lot of the Korean culture shaped how you are and your work ethic today for Hudson Beauty Bar.
Yeah.
I have a quick question outside of this. On your microblading techniques, and the reason why, I know that you probably have famous clients and influencers, but honestly, I picked you because I really like how you do different techniques. Can you tell our audience a bit more about how your microblading does different techniques?
I think when it comes to especially the eyebrows, right? The eyebrows, there's a saying like people speak to your eyebrows because your eyebrows can really like just change your appearance. So in the beginning, I was only taught to do like one type of technique, but I realized it's not one for all, right? So like I can't do microblading on someone who has really oily skin, or like I can't do like a shape, the pattern. So when it comes to the techniques, there's a pattern that you need to follow. But this pattern is not universal because the patterns, like some people's eyebrows literally go straight up like this. So people's eyebrows go like sideways. But if I do a universal pattern on different types of eyebrows, you're gonna get a crisscross. And like you have to think of like the skin texture as well. There's just so much you have to think about. It really seems like it's so quick and easy, but there's like 100 things that you also need to think about: the color, you need to think about the needle, you need to think about, okay, are we going to do microblading to shading? Are we going to do just shading? Are we going to do nano, which is another type of strokes, but that's done with the machine? Now, like, okay, does she have a warm undertone? Does she have a cool undertone? If so, what color are we going to use? Are we going to use inorganic pigments? What shape? There's just so many things that we have to think of. And clients' perspective, they think, oh, they're just painting something on my eyebrows. No, it's not like that. So I started with microblading and I saw my healed results. And my healed results were all different. And that's when I said, okay, something's got to change. And with beauty, again, it's always changing. There's always something. As we're speaking right now, somewhere in Thailand and in Vietnam, they're coming up with something different, something completely new that we don't know about, that they're only doing themselves. So something is always innovating, something is always changing, something is always improving. And as an artist who is offering these services, you need to really be on top of that. Like you can't just offer services, one service from 10 years ago. You have to really cater to your clients. So microblading, unfortunately, the biggest downside of permanent makeup is that people see the money grabbers, right? The instructors, they see how much money they can make by providing a 1 day, 2 day class. But in a 1 day, 2 day class, especially for beginners, you're not going to learn a lot. You're only going to learn like the basic techniques. The biggest problem with that is sometimes with microblading, you go in too deep because microblading is a blade. And if you go in too deep, you're butchering the skin. You're literally butchering the skin. And with that being said, people ended up with keloid scarring or skin damage And now microblading got such a bad reputation. But it's not, I keep saying this, microblading, it's not the technique that's the problem, it's the artist that's the problem. It's your pressure. So if you have learned that correctly, then like you wouldn't be having problems with the skin coming back. Now with the technique, whether it's microblading or you're using a needle and a machine, eventually, ultimately, you still have to save the integrity of the skin. So you can't tattoo like three, four times a year. We still have to wait a year. But these are the things that I've learned as a an artist, and that's I feel like that's why we offer so many different things to cater to different people.
This is so insightful. And from my experience with you, I was you're such an expert. So I really wanted to get that out there in front of the audience. The amazing techniques. I remember when I first got my eyebrow tattoo in LA, probably like 15 years ago. I think I told you like I came out like this, like Bert and Ernie with like two big, huge like literally just like lines, thick lines. And I did my eyeliner and I just like died. I was like, this is so painful. So I'm like doing this again. And so when I went back to, I was really, I loved how the licenses and all these sort of accolades that you had and the techniques that you're using. So I tried again, but it's really an incredible, like you said, every year these techniques are changing and the way that you do it, it's just so natural.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Esther. We love having you on our show. We love hearing. Again, I think you have such a kind, a warm heart. You're very, very honest type of person, and we love hearing all about your business and your story. So, thank you again.
Thank you for having